The most controlled person in any room is not the one who smiles the most. It is the one you hesitate to push too far. Somewhere along the way, you forgot this. You were trained to be agreeable, to be pleasant, to adjust yourself into forms that made others comfortable. You were taught that kindness equals strength, that turning the other cheek is noble, that the meek will somehow inherit the earth. But look closely. Look at who actually does. It is not the meek. It is not the gentle. It is not those who apologize for taking up space. It is those who carry a quiet, unmistakable warning within them. A presence that says, without words, do not test me. That quality, subtle, magnetic, and unsettling, is what I call being dangerous. Not violent, not aggressive, not loud, dangerous. In a modern world built on curated personalities, conflict avoidance, and emotional fragility, you have been steadily disarmed. You were convinced that danger is primitive, outdated, incompatible with civilization. But here is what Niccolò Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago, a truth that cuts through much of modern self-help thinking. A man who cannot be dangerous is not peaceful. He is simply harmless. And harmless people are not respected. They are managed. This is not about cruelty. It is not about harming others or moving through life with clenched fists. It is about something more refined and more effective. By the end, you will understand what it means to cultivate an edge, a psychological sharpness that protects you without needing to be used. You will see how modern systems benefit from your compliance, why softness is rewarded, and how the dangerous core within you has been slowly stripped away since childhood. But understand this, not everyone is ready for what follows. If you believe politeness alone will protect you from exploitation, if you think good intentions are enough to deal with predators disguised as colleagues, friends, or partners, then this message may not be for you. But if a quiet voice inside you already knows you have been too accommodating for too long, then stay. Because what follows is not taught in schools, praised socially, or printed on motivational posters. Let's begin. There was a time when every man carried a knife. Not as a metaphor, but as a tool worn openly. It was a statement, a reminder, to others and to himself, of capability. This was not about violence. It was about recognition. An unspoken agreement that said, we are all capable of harm, and because of that, we treat each other with respect. Machiavelli lived in such a world. Florence in the late 1400s was unforgiving. City-states fought for power. Alliances shifted constantly. Betrayal was inevitable. Survival required more than good intentions. It required strength. Machiavelli watched men rise and fall not based on moral purity, but on their ability to inspire fear when necessary. He saw what centuries of sanitized philosophy tried to ignore. Power flows toward those believed capable of using it. In The Prince, he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." This line is often quoted and often misunderstood. It is mistaken for an endorsement of cruelty. But Machiavelli did not argue for cruelty. He argued for capability, the capacity for decisive action, restrained but unmistakable. That distinction matters. The cruel person is reactive. He lashes out because he lacks control. His aggression is weakness disguised as force. The dangerous person is different. He is calm, measured, restrained. And because of that restraint, others sense the depth beneath him. The Italians had a word for this, terribilità. It was used to describe Michelangelo, not his work, but his presence. He could enter a room and silence it, not through threats, but through weight. Through an intensity so concentrated that even popes hesitated before challenging him. That quality has been lost. And it was not lost by accident. The systematic weakening of the human spirit may be one of the most effective psychological processes in history. It began with good intentions, as manipulation often does. You were taught to share, to cooperate, to suppress competition, the same instinct that once kept your ancestors alive. You learned to wait, to defer, to avoid confrontation at all costs. Conflict resolution became the ideal. Not conflict mastery, which requires strength, but conflict avoidance, which requires very little. Slowly, a message repeated itself. Danger is bad, safety is good, power is suspect, compliance is virtue. By adulthood, this conditioning was complete. Standing your ground became aggression. Boundaries became toxicity. Authority became intimidation. And intimidation, you were told, is unacceptable. But ask yourself, who benefits when you are easily intimidated? Who profits when you appease instead of assert? Not you. Employers who want obedience without resistance. Partners who want compliance without negotiation. Systems that demand conformity without challenge. Machiavelli understood this clearly. He wrote, "Men are so simple and so bound by immediate needs that a deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived." This softening was not an accident. It is a calculated strategy. A population made harmless is a population that is easy to govern, easy to market to, and easy to control. Dangerous men and women are inconvenient. They question authority. They resist being exploited. They cannot be pressured into agreement. So the decision was made not to outlaw violence, but to stigmatize danger itself. Violence is obvious, prosecutable, and often inefficient. Danger is different. It is quiet. It is the internal ability to cause serious consequences if required. That capacity had to be removed. For most people it was. Look at the language used in modern self-development. It focuses on softening. Be vulnerable. Be open. Remove your armor. Expose your wounds. There is truth in this. Vulnerability matters. Connection requires openness. But vulnerability without strength becomes an open invitation to exploitation. The message is incomplete. It is always about softness, never about balance. Never about being gentle when it serves you and formidable when it must. The most predatory individuals did not study healing or self-reflection. They studied the people who did. They learned to identify weakness through language that signals surrender. Kindness disarmed you. Now the task is rearming. Here is the paradox few understand. Truly dangerous people are often the most peaceful. They do not seek conflict. They do not initiate confrontation. They move with a quiet presence that unsettles others because it cannot be easily read. Violence is noisy. Danger is silent. Violence reacts. Danger waits. Violence seeks validation. Danger has nothing to prove. When I speak of becoming dangerous, I am not referring to aggression or rage. I am referring to reclaiming a human capacity that has been suppressed through shame, conditioning, and cultural pressure. It is your ability to be intense when necessary. Your capacity to say no and stand by it. Your willingness to leave situations that diminish you without justification. Your refusal to be controlled by guilt, obligation, or enforced politeness. Machiavelli observed that power is maintained not through constant action, but through the perception of potential action. He advised that force should not be used unnecessarily, but it must remain possible, present, understood, felt. This is what I refer to as personal weight. You have likely encountered someone who did not threaten, did not raise their voice, and did not posture, yet instinctively you knew not to challenge them. That is weight. It cannot be imitated. It comes from internal alignment. A clear understanding, I am capable, I am willing, and I am choosing restraint. That choice matters. A man who cannot fight is not peaceful. He is limited. His restraint is not voluntary. But a man who possesses the ability to cause harm and deliberately chooses stillness has earned his peace. Others sense this difference immediately. Human beings are finely tuned to detect danger. Thousands of years of evolution train the nervous system to register threat before conscious thought engages. We read posture. We notice micro-expressions. We feel the difference between practiced calm and genuine calm. This is why authenticity matters. You cannot fake danger. You can only develop it. The man who overcompensates with volume and aggression is transparent. His display signals insecurity. Excess reveals weakness. But the man who remains still becomes unreadable. And unreadable individuals are unsettling to those who rely on categorizing, predicting, and controlling others. Machiavelli wrote that people judge more with their eyes than their hands. Image creates functional reality. If others perceive you as dangerous, you become dangerous in effect, regardless of whether you ever act. Perception alone alters how people engage with you and what they attempt. This is why presence matters. Not exaggerated presence learned from manuals, but grounded presence that comes from knowing who you are, what you can do, and what you will not tolerate. This cannot be constructed overnight, but it can be developed. It begins with a question: what am I avoiding that I know I should confront? Perhaps it is speaking up when disrespected, leaving a draining environment, saying no to someone dependent on your compliance. The moment your body resists is where your power is buried. Each time you retreat from it, you diminish yourself. Each time you move toward it with calm clarity, you reclaim what was lost. Here is an uncomfortable reality. Modern culture does not merely accept weakness, it rewards it. Victimhood has become a form of currency. The injured are amplified. The offended are protected. Declaring harm and assigning blame has become socially powerful. Because victimhood removes responsibility. It demands nothing. It cannot be challenged. And most importantly, it cannot be feared. This benefits certain power structures. A population that identifies as victims seeks protection rather than strength. They look outward for rescuers instead of inward for resolve. Those who shape outcomes do not define themselves by wounds. Even when they suffer, they lead with intent, not injury. Machiavelli used provocative language to express a principle: life responds to action, not passivity. Circumstance does not reward waiting alone. It favors movement, decisiveness, and audacity. This is not cruelty. It is agency. The world is not designed to preserve you. It is designed to shape you into whatever role is most useful to those in control. Remain soft and you will be shaped. Become dangerous and you begin shaping instead. There is a part of you that has been suppressed. A part that once knew exactly what it wanted and pursued it without shame. As a child, this energy was visible. You demanded. You expressed. You took space. Over time, you were taught to restrain it. To be less. To avoid discomfort. To be acceptable. Your intensity was labeled a flaw. Your ambition became arrogance. Your strength became a problem. So you reduced yourself. Now you wonder why you feel depleted. Why life feels dull. Why intensity feels distant. The fire was never gone. It was buried, smothered, and it waits to be reclaimed. Carl Jung wrote that complete self-acceptance is terrifying because it requires acknowledging your shadow. Not to act on it, but to recognize it exists. The shadow is not evil. It is what was rejected. Your capacity for danger was among the first things removed. Reclaiming it does not mean becoming violent. It means becoming whole. A whole person contains softness and severity, compassion and force. When both are present, kindness becomes a choice, not a limitation. A creature incapable of attack is not kind. It is restricted. Strength with restraint is something else entirely. In the modern world, being dangerous does not require physical dominance, wealth, or influence, though each helps. It requires internal non-negotiables. Lines that cannot be crossed. Values that cannot be traded. Most people lack these. Under pressure, they bend. They compromise integrity for comfort and approval. That is what makes them manageable. The dangerous individual is unmanageable, not through defiance, but through commitment. Their values are not negotiable. Their word carries weight because it is backed by certainty. Machiavelli understood that most commitments are conditional, shaped by convenience. The dangerous person is different. When they commit, they follow through. When they draw a line, it holds. This strength is psychological, not physical. It is the certainty that pressure will not move you and manipulation will fail. This certainty is sensed, not stated. Once it becomes your foundation, interactions change. People stop testing boundaries. Discussions become simpler. You state your position clearly. If it is rejected, you leave. Relationships improve. You attract respect and repel exploitation. Anxiety fades because self-worth becomes a conclusion, not a debate. There is a concept in martial arts called zanshin, relaxed awareness. Readiness without tension. Calm without passivity. This is the dangerous mind. Not reactive. not asleep. Present and capable. Most people live between numb comfort and frantic reaction. The dangerous person occupies a third state, calm, alert, and prepared. Machiavelli observed this quality in figures he studied: stillness before decisive action. Not constant movement, but precise movement when required. This is the principle beneath effectiveness. Stillness generates power. When you remain still, others reveal themselves. Your energy accumulates. The world moves toward you. Let's play a game. You are a professional YouTube scriptwriter and expert paraphraser. Your task is to rewrite the provided transcript into a professional script while maintaining its original length and structure. Here are your instructions. 1. Rewrite the text, changing no more than 10% of the original content. 2. Simplify vocabulary and sentence structure where possible, but do not shorten the overall length. 3. Avoid repetition of words and phrases. 4. Maintain neutrality in tone, but where the script needs to take a stance, against or for, ensure it does so effectively and professionally. 5. Do not include dramatic scenes, keep the content to the point. 6. Retain all key points and arguments. Begin paraphrasing the transcript provided below. Paste your transcript/article here. Got it? I'm ready to play. Thumbs up. Please paste the transcript or article you want rewritten, and I will paraphrase it according to your exact rules. Less than or equal to 10% wording change. Same length and structure. Simpler vocabulary, no shortening. No repetition. Neutral, professional tone. No dramatization. All key points preserved. Once you paste the text, I'll begin immediately. Not because you are passive, but because stillness creates gravity. The loud, frantic, constantly reactive person has no pull. They are always moving, always scattered. But the still person draws people in, draws attention, draws power. This is the craft of the dangerous, doing less while meaning more, speaking less while conveying more, moving less while achieving more. This is not passivity. It is precision. Let me explain what happens when you remain harmless. Nothing dramatic. That is the cruelty of it. There is no sudden collapse, no single moment you can point to and say, that's when it all went wrong. Instead, there is slow erosion. A quiet buildup of moments where you should have spoken but stayed silent, where you should have walked away but remained, where you should have demanded respect but accepted less. Each compromise feels small, manageable, even reasonable. It's not worth the conflict. I'll let it slide this time. Maybe I'm overreacting. And year after year, compromise by compromise, you become someone you barely recognize. You look in the mirror and see a face trained to smile on cue. Eyes that no longer hold a gaze. A posture that curves inward, as if apologizing for taking up space. This is the price of softness. Not collapse, but disappearance. The person you could have been. The one who stood firm, who carried weight, who entered rooms with presence, dies by inches. And the worst part is that no one notices. The world does not mourn what was never born. People around you adjust to the reduced version of you. They forget who you were before you started shrinking. They accept the smaller you as the real one. Eventually, you do too. Machiavelli wrote, "There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others." He spoke of nations, but the principle applies inward. Every conflict you avoid does not vanish. It compounds. Every boundary you fail to defend becomes a precedent. Every tolerated disrespect teaches the world what you will endure. You believe you are preserving peace. In reality, you are surrendering ground. One day, you wake up with nothing left to give. You find yourself living a life shaped almost entirely by other people's demands, wondering how you arrived there. That is the cost. Here is what is rarely explained about predators. In nature, predators are not cruel. They are not sadistic. They do not hunt for pleasure. They are simply awake. Their senses are sharp. Their focus is complete. Every movement is intentional. Every decision is measured against survival. Prey animals live differently. They exist in constant low-grade fear. They rely on the herd. They react instead of strategizing. They scan endlessly for threats but never become one. Modern society has turned most people into prey. We live in chronic anxiety. We move in ideological, cultural, and professional herds. We react to notifications, headlines, and cycles of outrage. We are always alert, yet rarely intentional. What we have lost is the predator mind, the mind that shapes reality instead of responding to it, the mind that moves with purpose rather than impulse, the mind others instinctively hesitate to challenge. Reclaiming this state is not about violence. Predators, remember, are rarely violent. They do not need to be. Their capacity is so clearly understood that most conflicts never arise. A wolf does not fight every animal it encounters. Its presence alone defines what is possible. That presence, the predator state, is what has been taken from you. Recovering it begins with a shift in how you see yourself. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to stay comfortable. You are not here to make others comfortable. You are here to live fully, to pursue what matters with intensity, and to refuse, clearly and finally, to be reduced by those who mistake restraint for weakness. Now let's get practical. How do you actually cultivate danger? Not performance. Not fake aggression. Real, undeniable capacity. It begins with the body. Your physical presence speaks before words ever do. Posture, movement, how you occupy space. Someone who moves calmly, who can remain still without fidgeting, who holds eye contact without neediness, communicates something primal. You do not need to be large. You do not need to be intimidating. You need to inhabit your body, to move as if each gesture is chosen, to stand as if you belong where you are. Most people move apologetically. They shrink. They make themselves small in elevators, hallways, meeting rooms. They yield space to whoever appears dominant. So, not aggressively, but deliberately. Stop giving ground you never chose to surrender. Take up space. Move at your pace. Allow silence without rushing to fill it. These small shifts compound. They change how others read you and how you experience yourself. Second, the voice. A dangerous voice is not loud. It is controlled. Slow your speech. Let it drop naturally, speaking from the chest rather than the throat. Remove filler words, These are verbal concessions. They signal doubt. They invite interruption. Speak as if words matter because they do. Carelessness with language becomes carelessness with power. Pause before responding. Not nervously but intentionally. Let others sit with the silence of your consideration. That pause communicates something language cannot. I am not reactive. I cannot be rushed. I respond on my terms. Third, the eyes. This is where many fail. The accommodating person looks away, lowers their gaze under pressure, breaks eye contact in moments of tension. The dangerous person holds, not with hostility, not with intensity, but with calm steadiness. When someone speaks, you look at them. When challenged, you do not look away first. When faced with intimidation, you meet it with composed stillness. When your eyes say, I am not afraid of this moment, the moment shifts. Fourth, boundaries. Dangerous people have limits that are understood without being announced. They do not debate them. They do not explain them. They demonstrate them. When a line is crossed, they do not argue or justify. They act quietly. Sometimes that action is leaving. Sometimes it is ending a relationship. Sometimes it is one sentence delivered with such clarity that no further discussion follows. That won't happen again. Not raised. Not emotional. Simply stated like a fact. And the listener knows it is true, even if they cannot explain why. This is how an edge is built. Not through a single bold moment, but through thousands of small ones. A continuous adjustment in how you move, speak, look, and enforce. Over time, it becomes identity. And identity becomes undeniable. Now we reach the core truth. Being dangerous alone is not enough. Danger without wisdom becomes chaos. Power without principle turns into tyranny. Strength without restraint leads to destruction. Machiavelli understood this, despite his reputation. He did not admire brutality for its own sake. He valued effectiveness, and he understood that effectiveness depends on balance. A ruler who is only feared will eventually be removed. A leader who relies solely on terror will find no loyalty when circumstances change. This is why a prince who wishes to maintain power must know how to do wrong and how to use it, or not, according to necessity. According to necessity. Not constantly, not recklessly, not as a default, but as an available option, present and ready when required. The truly dangerous person is not someone who has discarded ethics. They are someone who has absorbed ethics so completely that they no longer require external control. They do not avoid cruelty because they fear punishment. They avoid it because it is inefficient, wasteful, beneath their standards. But if cruelty became necessary, truly necessary, they would be capable of it without hesitation, without the paralysis that affects those who have never faced their own darker capacities. This is what Jung meant by integrating the shadow. You do not become evil. You acknowledge the capacity for evil and bring it under conscious direction. The integrated individual can be gentle because they have confronted their aggression. They can be patient because they have felt their anger. They can forgive because they understand exactly what they could do if they chose not to forgive. Kindness that comes from this integration is fundamentally different from the kindness of the merely harmless. It carries weight. The other person senses that it is a decision, that alternatives exist, and that compassion was selected deliberately from a range that includes destruction. This is the kindness of the dangerous, and it is the only kind that commands real respect. Once you begin to change, genuinely change, the world will notice, and it will not necessarily approve. Those who benefited from your softness will resist your shift. They will label it arrogance or coldness. They will say you have changed, and it will not be meant as praise. This reaction is predictable. Your compliance served them. Your flexibility made their lives easier. When that compliance ends, they feel the loss. Some will adapt. They will recognize the new version of you, respect it, and engage with you differently. Others will not. They will expend energy trying to push you back into your former shape. They will use guilt, manipulation, and distortion. They will insist the old version was the real one, because the old version was more convenient. These people are not necessarily adversaries. They are simply exposing what the relationship was always built on. That clarity, while uncomfortable, is useful. A dangerous person does not require relationships rooted in exploitation. They can let those connections go. They will form new ones, relationships that respect their edge instead of trying to dull it. Machiavelli understood that transformation creates resistance. He wrote, "There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more dangerous to conduct, or more uncertain in its outcome than to lead the introduction of a new order." Yet he also understood that the alternative, remaining safe, unchanged, and soft, was a slow form of death. It is better to be tested and grow than to stay comfortable and stagnant. Better to lose relationships that depended on your weakness than to keep them at the cost of your strength. Better to be dangerous and alone than harmless and surrounded. In practice, however, the dangerous are rarely isolated. They attract a different kind of person. Those who respect what they have become, those who carry their own edge. Strength recognizes strength. And people like this tend to find one another. This is where we arrive. You were disarmed intentionally, methodically. A soft world encouraged softness because soft people are easier to manage. They consume without questioning. They comply without resistance. They tolerate without limits. But something in you did not fully disappear. An ember remained. That ember led you here, to these words, to this moment. Now a decision stands in front of you. You can return to sleep. Close this video. Tell yourself it was interesting but unrealistic. Go back to a life of controlled politeness and managed comfort. Or you can begin, not with dramatic acts or confrontations, but with small, deliberate steps of reclaiming yourself. The next time you feel the urge to apologize for existing, don't. The next time someone crosses a boundary, hold it. The next time you want to shrink, to accommodate, to make yourself smaller for someone else's ease, refuse. Each refusal is a vote for the person you are becoming. Each calm assertion of dignity lays another stone in the structure of your new self. It will be uncomfortable. You will feel the pull to retreat. But discomfort is the cost of change. And the person on the other side of that discomfort, The integrated, disciplined, unmistakably dangerous individual is worth more than every false comfort you leave behind. Machiavelli's final lesson is often missed. He did not write The Prince for tyrants. He wrote it for those who wanted to understand how power truly functions so they would no longer be victims of it. Knowledge is protection. And now you have it. You understand how the world softens you and for what reason. You understand what real danger is and what it is not. You understand that the choice is yours and that no one else will make it on your behalf. One last truth. Being dangerous is not light. It is not the absence of burden. It is the replacement of one burden with another. The soft person carries constant fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. The dangerous person carries a different load, the weight of responsibility. The responsibility of knowing they could cause harm and choosing not to. The responsibility of living consciously in a world that rewards unconscious behavior. But this weight belongs to them. The burden of softness was imposed. The burden of danger is chosen. And there is a fundamental difference between suffering that happens to you and suffering you willingly accept. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi death camps, wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." The dangerous person has a why. They carry their weight toward something. Their restraint has meaning. Their power has direction. And within that chosen weight, there is an unexpected lightness. The lightness of alignment, the lightness of being fully yourself without apology. You were taught that softness would bring peace. Did it? Or did it bring a constant, low-level anxiety, never fully sure where you stand with others or even with yourself? Danger, paradoxically, brings a deeper peace. The peace of certainty. The peace of alignment. The peace of knowing you will not abandon yourself regardless of what the world demands. That peace is waiting for you. Not through more accommodation. Not through another compromise. Not through becoming easier for others to consume. It waits in the opposite direction, in reclaiming your edge, integrating your shadow, and patiently cultivating a presence that cannot be dismissed. The soft world will continue to soften. Let it. You have different work to do. The real question was never whether you could be dangerous. You can. You always have been. The question is whether you will allow yourself to be. Whether you will stop apologizing for your own capacity. Whether you will accept that power itself is not evil. Only power without control is. Whether you decide that comfort matters less than integrity and likability matters less than self-respect. There is no final arrival point. This is not a destination where one day everything is complete. It is a practice, a discipline, an ongoing negotiation between who you are and who you refuse to become. But it begins now, with this moment, with the next choice, with the quiet decision to choose weight over ease. No one will applaud you for this. A soft world does not celebrate the dangerous. But you will know. And in that quiet knowing, something settles, something old, patient, and unmistakably yours. The fire that was buried begins to breathe. And you become, finally, someone who cannot be ignored. If what you've heard has reached something in you that most content never touches, understand this is only what can be shared publicly. There are layers of this knowledge that cannot exist here. Algorithms do not reward depth. They punish what resists easy labels. The most transformative material is often buried or removed entirely. So it lives somewhere else. Behind the join button is a level I call the architect. That's where what is held back lives. The frameworks too confronting for a general audience, the psychology of influence most people are not ready to face. If you're still here after all of this, you're not like most. Subscribe if you haven't. But if you want what is actually hidden, click join. Most won't. That's the point.